What's up, everybody? Lucius, the Viking Realtor here, and today we're going to talk about something completely different than I had planned. We're going to talk about why Viking Realty will never belong to a franchise. Okay, so long story short, yesterday I walk into the office and Rob is sitting down with an individual that I know I've met before, but I couldn't really place my finger as to where. So we were just having a conversation. We were just talking back and forth. And one of the topics that came up was, why don't you franchise? Why won't you join a franchise? And I thought that was a really interesting question. So, first of all, I'm anti establishment in almost every way you could possibly get. I will not work for the man. I left the corporate world so that I could start my own business. I just do not like large organized systems that just frankly don't work. And I want to be sure that I say that I'm not picking on the individual that came to the office, I'm picking on franchises. Because the reality is, when they asked why I wouldn't join a franchise, I said, what do I have to benefit by joining a franchise? And every single thing that she had said or listed, I can literally get right here in Muncie, Indiana, using local individuals and not pay for someone else's yacht. So I'll back up for a second and I'll kind of explain. When I first got into real estate, I had joined FC Tucker. And then about a year and a half or so later, I went to Coldwell Banker. And the reality is, it had nothing to do with the franchise itself. It had everything to do with the individual's name that was on the building. And when I went to Coldwell Banker, I went to Coldwell Banker because of Mike Lunsford. Mike Lunsford has been in real estate for years. His name was on the building. People knew who he was, and I thought that would benefit my business. So I went to Coldwell Banker, not because of the Coldwell Banker franchise. It had nothing to do with them whatsoever. It had everything to do with the individual whose name was on the building. Now, regardless of whose name was on the building, I didn't get to make the choice as to whether or not I paid Coldwell Banker or not. Mike belonged to Coldwell Banker. So therefore, every transaction that I had to split with the office, and then I had to give 6% to the office, and then the office paid 1% for me. So a total of 7% of my commissions went to Coldwell Banker, regardless of whether or not they ever did a goddamn thing for my business or not. Now, after several years of being in real estate, I realized very quickly that not a single person, zero, not a single person ever asked me what brokerage I worked for. They wanted to work with Lucius. They didn't care if it was Coldwell Banker. They didn't care if it was Remax. They didn't care if it was Berkshire Hathaway or Sotheby's or whatever. My clients came to work with Lucius. And Coldwell Banker never did anything to promote Lucius. As a matter of fact, if I paid for a billboard, if I wanted to advertise Lucius, Coldwell Banker insisted, because I belonged to their franchise, that their logo had to be bigger than my logo. So if I bought a full-size billboard, they had to get 51%. I got 49%. It had to be bigger, and I was paying for the billboard. Now, that was just number one, and I just don't believe in giving money to people who don't earn it, and Coldwell Banker did nothing to earn my money. So I decided at the height of COVID, when we were being told that we had to pay our franchise fees, regardless of whether or not we came into the office. As a matter of fact, we were told we couldn't come to the office, but we had to continue paying almost $1,200 a month for a building I couldn't enter, that it was time for us to open our own brokerage. Now, opening a brokerage, opening a business isn't for everybody. And I completely understand why the appeal is there for some individuals to belong to a franchise. They don't want to take on the struggles of running a business, paying taxes, owning a building, all the overhead, the agents, everything else that goes along with it. But the reality is, I didn't leave the franchise because I wanted to deal with those things. I left the franchise because I didn't want to send my money outside of my community. Now, I'm going to break things down in a little bit of a way, and I'm not trying to pick on the agents within Coldwell Banker because I work side by side with a lot of those agents, and they're perfectly fine. I have no problem working with them. A lot of them are very good professionals. They're very good at what they do. Again, I'm picking on Coldwell Banker, the franchise, Remax, the franchise, Sotheby's, the franchise, all of the franchises that are basically just taking money and pulling it out of communities. So in 2021, our local Coldwell Banker franchise in Muncie, Indiana did $111 million worth of business. Now, that doesn't mean they collected $111 million. That means they sold homes worth $111 million. And that equaled out to 752 transactions within that franchise. Now, out of that, 7% of that went to Coldwell Banker, the franchise. So $195,000, no matter how you look at it, this is just pure fact, $195,000 left Muncie, Indiana. People that were hiring Muncie agents, individuals like myself, would then give their money to us for performing our duties, performing our services, and then we took $195,000 and shipped it right out of Indiana. Went to California, went to Coldwell Banker Corporate. Now, at that time in 2021, I was part of that problem. I was working for a Coldwell Banker franchise. I was selling real estate, and I was part of that $195,000 that went right out the door of Indiana, will never come back. Rob and I decided we didn't want to be a part of that anymore. We didn't want to be a part of paying for some guy's yacht in California. So we decided that we were going to open our own brokerage. Now, fast forward a couple of years. It's now 2023, and Viking Realty sold $9.5 million worth of real estate. Now, we didn't collect $9.5 million. We sold enough real estate to equal $9.5 million. And out of our commissions, we collected from every agent in our office a total of $14,364 due to an internal 6% fee that we charge every agent. Every penny of that was donated to different causes within Muncie, Indiana. Now, we're a small office, and we have less than 10 active agents in our office, and less than half of that is actually full-time, which means we don't have a lot of money to throw around. But that $14,000 was actually only half of what we reinvested here in Muncie. So we actually went into debt last year giving money to our community. Now, someone's going to see this and say, oh, well, Lucius, if you went into debt giving back to your community, that's just bad business. And my answer to that is, I don't give a what you think. Now, let's kick this can down the road a little bit further, and you're going to realize that I'm not just actually picking on Coldwell Banker, because the truth of the matter is Coldwell Banker, Better Homes and Gardens, Century 21, ERA, Sotheby's, and Corcoran are all owned by the same company called Anywhere Real Estate. Well, what does that mean? It means that when you have Coldwell Banker, Better Homes and Gardens, Century 21, and ERA all working in a localized area, you think you're getting competition, but the reality is one company owns them all. Now, that company is a publicly traded company, and large equity holding firms actually control 61.8% of Anywhere Real Estate. So the problems that we're trying to solve as being realtors, the housing crisis, the cost of the cost of homes, the cost of housing, all those problems that we're trying to solve are actually being negated by the franchises that we are working for. Now, you might ask yourself, how's it being negated by those franchises? Well, those same large equity holding companies like BlackRock and Vanguard that all those franchises are controlled by are buying homes in America just to rent them out. Now, that's not the first time anyone's ever had a rental unit, right? But when I say they're buying homes in America, I mean out of the 144 million homes in America, 7.6 million of them are owned by those large equity firms, and they are expected to own up to 30% of the houses in the next 5 years, which means they're turning our country into a rental country. They're turning our country into a fiefdom, essentially, where they're the lords, we're the peasants, and we just hand them all of our money for our food, for our housing, and so on. I mean, this is just no-brainer information, and it's all available to you, but no one wants to look or talk about it. Now, I'll be completely fair. Not all franchises belong to publicly traded companies that are controlled by equity firms and so on and so forth. Not all franchises are owned by someone else. Some of those franchises are just privately held companies that franchise out their business. The same problem occurs for us at Viking Realty, though, is that I'm still responsible to take money that my agents earned that could be helping our community and ship it out the door. And I'm just frankly not cool with that. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. And again, you don't have to take my advice. I'm just trying to help you keep your money in your community where it belongs instead of increasing Ryan Snyder's net worth another $57 million. But don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to these videos. It's the best way to support what I'm doing. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching Let's Talk Real Estate.